In this section, we will have a look at modeling with Ember data. Ember data is the default library to manage models in Ember. In this section, we will start by defining our first model. We will create a line item model to map our expenses. Then we will have a look at CRUD, the 4 major actions in REST. Next, we will have a look at validations using Ember CP validations. And lastly, we will have a look at relationships in Ember. So let us get started with using Ember data. Let us start by defining our first model. In this video, we will generate a new Ember model called LineItem. We will then define the attributes we need on it, and lastly, we will set up the default values that are required for a LineItem. In our expense buddy app, we created a row to list each transaction. We will be calling these transactions as LineItems. So, for example, each of these entries will be a record of type LineItem. In our application, we have been using a plain Ember object to create our LineItem records. Now, let us do the same using Ember data. To generate a model in Ember, we type the command Ember generate model and then the name of the model. In our case, it would be LineItem. And then we can pass in the attributes of the LineItem model, which would be description, date, amount, and is expense. We can further customize it by informing Ember about the type of each attribute. So for example, description would be of type string, date would be of type date, amount would be a number, and is expense is a boolean. This generates a LineItem model file and a corresponding test file. So let us open the model file. When we open our LineItem model file, we can see that each of the attribute has been mapped to the corresponding transform that we specified in the generator using the ds.attr method. If we look at the documentation for ds.attr method, we see that we can pass a hash containing default value as the second parameter. Let us add a default value of 0 to the amount in our application. Also, let us add a default value of true to the isExpense attribute, since in our application the trend would be to have lots of expense entries followed by a single income entry. Thus, we have generated our first model and we have seen how to generate models to map our application's entities. To conclude, we generated a new LineItem model and then we defined its attributes, and lastly we set up its default values.